Hello. So I'm going to briefly explain my two targets and also my fuzzing process. This is my first target. It's a really simple XOR implementation specifically on integers. And this part is the bug. The rest of it is just the logic. Okay, so pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Target 2, not as simple and straightforward. It is a double-sided queue implementation. Basically, with a regular queue, you insert from the back and then take out from the front. Here you can insert or remove elements from either the front or the back. This part is defining the data structure of the queue, and the rest of it is the insert and removal operations. So front end queue and back end queue are those you're able to insert from either the front or the back. And front DQ, back DQ are you can remove from either the front or the back. So I'm going to scroll down here. And finally, we have front peak and back peak. This is basically a way to check what values are currently at the head and the tail without changing the structure of the queue. And I also have some quick get functions for checking whether the queue is currently empty and also checking the size. All right, so that's my second target. Let's move on to the fuzzing part. So I'm using Apple, I'm using a Mac, so the clang function was not, or the clang version was not the correct one, and I had to run this command. This command to actually get the correct version of clang, which you can check right here. So this version. And that way I can actually build my targets. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to compile them. Let's get that function real quick. Okay. Sorry for the time delay. So that's me building my first target, or compiling my first target. And then I'm going to run it. Oh, and you can see that it crashes. Okay, so it runs for about 250 iterations, and then it crashes on this assertion. This is from this part of the code, and this assertion is testing the property that in XOR, if you XOR this value n with the same value m 2 times in a row, then the final outcome should just be your original n. Like the m's should undo each other. And by checking that n equals twice, we basically check that the final outcome is equal to n. But here I have a bug that activates if whatever this x value is odd, and that basically messes up the logic of the XOR and returns the wrong thing for here. So that's the first bug. Now let's build our second target and check the second bug. Now let's run this for one time. Oh, you can see that took a bit longer, and also it took double the amount of iterations, 580. And it fails on this assertion, line 131. Let's go to that. This assertion is part of a property that's testing basically how the queue operates. Hypothetically, let's say we have a queue, a double-sided queue, but we only use front operations. At that point, you basically just have a normal queue. And that same thing should also apply if you take a queue and then only use back operations, just a normal queue. So this property is checking that if I have one queue that only uses front operations, so you only insert from the front and then take out from the front, that should be identical to, you have a queue and you only insert from the back and take out from the back. Those two things should be the exact same, and they should be semantically consistent. And here I check basically that the two queues have the identical size, the identical elements, I had to kind of work around C++ because it's a bit off about returning null and returning null pointer. Instead, I had to check for whether or not an error was thrown or exception was thrown. That's what this function is. I wrote this here, here. And this crashed because basically the front elements were not the same. In other words, one was empty and it returned an error, and the other one was not empty, and so it did not return an error. This is because of my bug, which I had put right here in back DQ. So usually when a queue gets emptied, both the tail and the head should be set to null, no pointer. But here, I don't have that logic. See how I have this else? I don't have the else here. So when back DQ empties out the queue, it does not set head to null, which is a bug. And that bug is checked by this assertion. All right, so that was a quick explanation and demonstration of my fuzzing. Thank you for watching.